Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the channel. This is future me talking over top of my commentary from a live stream that I did. Just figured it'd be a fun way to try recording this video because more or less the way I do the ball pit reactions anyway is just record myself commenting over top of gameplay. So every now and then I'll interject with something whenever I think it would be worthwhile to actually say, but otherwise, more or less, I'm saying right now that I had played a little bit offline and progress this forward, but I've actually picked it up for the PS5 as well, so that's the one that I'm mainly going to play offline, and the PC one will be largely streamed or at the very least recorded to maintain its progress from this point out for the channel. Either way, I'll probably put up a couple episodes of Ball Pit, and the streams, I'll leave the VODs unlisted, but otherwise I'm going to come in and try to actually make a more edited video that cuts some of the stuff out. Like right now I'm showing me do the resource gathering and maintenance in between, but what I'll probably end up doing with the actual VOD is going through and cutting this part out just because I don't think it's super relevant yet. I don't have enough structures just yet for it to be worthwhile to see the way I'm setting stuff up, because all you do is make some corridors and bounce your balls around enough to figure out what's going on. So anyway, I'm going to cut back the video and let me commenting as it plays take back over. But to be fair, of all the roguelikes out there, this one seems to take some of the least amount of time. I guess I should probably pull up the chat on YouTube so I can monitor it. So I guess the game's going to go into auto mode for a minute. Huh. It's working out oddly well. Okay, there we go. Now we can watch chat, and let's move us around and actually try to actively play. Alright. Increase fire rate, level up bleed, or have a chance to launch a baby ball when we pick up a gem. I don't really like the gem pickup stuff. I know it works, clearing out levels, getting the bosses, but from what I have found, if I don't have enough clear speed to actually get through the level anyway, I generally don't have enough stuff to kill the boss. And you don't get any more gem generation once you get the boss. So, it seems like a useless upgrade to me. Could be wrong on that. Feel free to let me know below if I am. You know, I have never tried stacking all the different crits, so let's try that out, see how it goes. Now, which one did I pick up? The right side, so assuming that's it, or does it actually mean theirs? I believe it does actually legitimately mean they're right, because that's where the crits are popping. Damage is going kind of slow. That should help. Get another status effect going in. Statuses really do seem to be the main way to get level clear going. Especially when you grab an AoE and manage to fuse it in with a status. I'm really curious how the deeper levels are actually going to get. There's an AoE effect. That will start helping as soon as we actually have enough levels on everything to upgrade it and get it fused. Alright. Boost the gain a little bit on my mic. Try to make sure everyone can actually hear me pretty well. I think I was a little bit too quiet at first there. But we'll see. Mainly the types of runs that I've been doing offline have been just practice runs trying to gain levels on this character. tried not doing a whole lot of progression offline. Let's see about lightning rod. Whoop! I forgot that can happen on this level. That's not the first time I've been caught with that. And I didn't mean to hit that. Although now I should be good for a fusion. Or an evolution. If I can get another one before the first boss. Baby balls. 1 to 2 balls each. Increase crit 20% when hitting enemies in the same column as you. Might as well grab it. I'm trying to grab other crit stuff, so let's see what happens. I'm curious what the long-term strategies are for the game. Man, I really don't know if I just have the game volume set way too high or what. Let me actually tweak that just in case. Because that music's still pretty loud even with all that turned down. Yeah, that sounds a little bit more manageable. At least over the headphones. Who knows? I'll find out when I'm editing the recording later. Could be completely wrong and I end up having to boost all the levels back around, but we'll find out. Yeah, let's just... Sure. Actually, I guess I should be over here. And I like that one. Veterans Hut. Alright. Evolution. Okay. So flaming ball. Bloody ball. Oh, actually, that looks like a bomb. I would imagine that gets rid of it, so I don't want that. Let's just do the lightning rod combo. Yeah, that's one I got on the PlayStation. And... Sure. The laser's pretty good to combo with other AoE effects. I wish I'd gotten a couple more of the daggers, but yeah, whatever. Trying to test out a AoE or a crit build and couldn't get the crit items. I wonder how you actually control targeting the abilities that you actually want in this, because I know most of these games have some sort of luck mitigation that you can do after a little while. And... But I don't know. Actually, you know what? Let's do this. Because I would rather fuse one of those statuses with the laser once I get it leveled up. Come on. There we go. But what I was saying, most games have some way that you can actually manipulate RNG to give you what you want. I know this one has the skips and the ability to banish certain abilities for the rest of the run, but I've also noticed that anytime you win a new level, you unlock new abilities, which is to be expected. That's generally the way these types of games flow. Question would be, since this seems to have very limited number of of exclusions, how can you mitigate it in any reasonable way? Although, unless the difficulty goes up pretty hardcore towards the end, I can't imagine you need a massive amount of bad luck mitigation. Like, yeah, no, I've not plowed my way through the levels in it, but I've also not put hours upon hours upon hours into the game just yet. Anytime in a game like this, anytime I've taken a movement ability, I'm better off getting it capped off as early as possible. That way I don't have to worry about getting used to whatever movement changes there are for the rest of the run. I can get used to it early and then not worry about it. Okay, laser's capped, so let's do this. Grab laser and bleed or burn. Let's do bleed. Alright. Why? Because bleed makes them take more damage from other regular balls. Whereas you need a couple little extra tweaks to make fire or burn damage do the same thing. And wind seems like a good one. We will end up being able to combine that with fire to make that whole firestorm type of thing. And clear that side off real quick. Found the vampire things just while it seemed kind of fun. Once I stopped trying to make vampire builds, everything actually went better. So I'm assuming it's a bit of a red herring. Oh, one thing I did forget to do. Meant to turn on the camera. So let's activate, pop that in the corner here. There we go. Alright. Sure, pick up another bleed ball. And we can fuse it with one of the other combos that's already up there. Add bleed into it. I really need to stop running into them. It'd be fun to have a fiery, blood-inducing vortex. And let's clear up some of the experience. See. Nah, we're not going to be able to get another one before we pick that up. Good job. So it seems like this is a potent enough build. I do believe we have enough damage to actually beat the boss on this one. But we'll see. Not too terribly far off in the future either. It's not that far away. And yeah, it's safe to pick this up. So, Inferno and Bleed. There we go. Now, too bad I didn't have a chance to pick up something like Ethereal here towards the end. I know at some point you can actually start combining the passives, but I don't have any idea how far into the game that is. Like, is it doable now if you have the right ones, or is it one of those things that you have to be at least so far in first? Let's just grab another bleed. Keep stacking the bleed in there. Get up to really high levels of bleed, it does quite a decent chunk of damage, I think. I don't know, look, I'm talking like I'm an expert. I don't know shit about this so far. I've played it a bit, but this is the second level. I've clearly not mastered it yet. The only thing I've mastered is the ability to ramble on without really thinking too much about what I'm saying. So, random conversation topic. Something to speak about that has absolutely nothing to do with the game. Currently working my way through reading some various science textbooks because the state that I work in is looking to, or not textbook, but science-based books, just straight-up books, like the Poisoner's Handbook. Trying to find something that I think would be an appropriate read for a high school science class. Specifically interested in working in a small reading segment into chemistry. Because the content, I feel like I can handle it at the same sort of pace that I'm going at right now, but there's going to gradually be an increase in the cutoff scores for people doing reading SOLs. That means it's going to get harder for them to pass. So, any little thing to help the English department out to get people to pass that test and help them actually manage to pass or get their diploma, it's a good thing to do. So, the subjects that I teach are chemistry, anatomy, and ecology. Anatomy, I have a pretty good idea of what I want to try to read in there as a group. Chemistry, I have some ideas, but I've got to check the stuff out. And ecology, I'm not really sure what would be appropriate for that one. So, if you have any suggestions about generalized non-fiction books, or even fiction, I guess, if it actually fits really well with a more realistic depiction of scientific information, then I'd be all ears and be very happy to hear the recommendations. And if any of my current students happen to come across this, don't worry, the semester's almost over. It would definitely not be for your classes. I'm not going to work a reading project in, besides I got to get it approved first, if it's not already on the school's approved book list. I'm not looking to go for anything controversial, by the way. Just looking to find something to get a little bit more of a literary practice into the class. Science classes always have vocabulary and whatnot in them, but an actual straight up reading thing is just not terribly common from what I've experienced myself. Although one of my most enjoyable college science classes was actually a genetics course where the professor had us reading through the book Genome as we were going through the semester. So let's see real quick. We'll go to the game info. Gain 0.05 AoE power for each character you've completed the Snowy Shores with. Each fast tier completed on top of that adds 0.005 bonus per character. Cool. One more gear, we'll unlock the next level, and we got the Villa. I believe that's 2 character level, or character buildings that we've opened up in this run. So we'll have to build those. But anyway, that class was one of the most enjoyable college level classes that I had. And part of that was because that book was actually pretty enjoyable to read. So, definitely would be interested in trying to integrate something like that into my actual classes. go with this one. And so we'll, hold on. Swap that in there. You know what? Let's rotate this. Might be more likely to hit if we do this. I don't know. We'll see. Okay, and that'll at least get each one of them one hit on it. And I totally missed the boneyard, and that is wonderful. That was a terrible move on my part. Okay, so what we might do, I wonder if we just run into the first level and crash out real fast. If it'll actually reset everything and let us just keep charging them into buildings to get them knocked down. By the way, gamer subs. Terrible canisters. I really hate the way that they do their containers, but it tastes excellent. Now, don't get me wrong. Some of them are fine, but they do have some pretty unusual, so to speak, containers. Okay. Let's see. Actually, might as well. Not absolutely necessary, but we'll go ahead and do it. And is there anything that we can build that doesn't require rocks? No. So we need some stones. Rearrange. Let's put one here. Try and throw one here. There we go. And let's do another run. So who should we take another swing at the ice level with? He's at level 7. How about instead of the ice level, we go back and try out a fast run. Let's see if we can manage to actually beat it on fast mode this time. This will probably be one of the runs that I actually edit out of the final video. By the way, actually, there we go. One thing I will probably end up doing is starting to leave the VODs will be unlisted. So if you happen to stumble across this and you want to watch it, you'll be able to link back into it. Those are all good choices. You'll be able to link back into it if you have the link, but I'm going to pull those down and actually put up an edited version of the videos where cut out anything that's like a farming run or something like that and just keep the actual attempts at progression in. This is significantly faster than that mode is on PlayStation, which is fine. What if we can mix electricity and bleed? Let's see if we can get another skill before we pop the evolution thing. I've figured out this is okay at the end of a run. Don't very much like it at the beginning, so just grab that. Go ahead and get this. Ah, cool, cool. That's actually quite nice, because that means the next time we pick one up, we'll be able to actually do a fusion. You know what? Let's just go ahead and grab that. No, it's not 100% necessary, at least at this point, but it won't hurt, and it's early enough that we can definitely get it up and get it into a fusion. We just need to control ourselves and pick up a fusion the next time around. The back, we might as well grab that because that's the only way that we can actually hit the final boss for this level. Evolution. Yeah, sure. Now, hopefully we can pick up another electric ball. It seems like it gives you priority towards picking up things that you've used for evolutions already. Although that's a good one too. So, yeah. Ghost is fine. I really need to stop walking into stuff. Do. And sure. Clear some stuff out real quick before we grab that. Kind of surprised I didn't have any fusions available, but I don't know all of them yet. We'll get there. Either way, that ramped up my overall capabilities quite a bit, so not disappointed with it. Oh, there we go. Well, since we've had that one before, let's try this guy. See what happens here. Looked like a Gorgon. Kind of. Soul Sucker. Passes through enemies and saps them with a 30% chance of stealing 1 health and reducing their attack damage by 20%. Lifesteal chance only applies once per enemy. Okay, cool. I'm fine with that. Okay, that thing spreads fast. That is actually a pretty awesome ability. Let's see. So this one may make it into the actual video after all, because this is pretty cool little combination of abilities I got going on so far. And let's see what we can get. And let's just try reroll. Nah, we'll just upgrade something we have. Fusion. Let's make it get bleed as well, because it's passing its ability along pretty well. So it seems to be spreading bleed very effectively as well. This is pretty fun. Maybe not necessarily the most powerful run that I've ever had, but quite enjoyable. I have to say, this feels better on mouse and keyboard. You feel like you've got a little bit more precision. Yeah, let's grab wind, because it makes a good combo. Well, we probably got just enough time left to get one more effective combo in there, or at the very least just to get some decent upgrades. Yeah, let's try reroll. Well, that's basically the same thing, so let's just do... I like lightning, so... Come on. Yeah, I had to grab it. It's gonna go off screen, so... A bit of a waste. One thing I should probably start doing to boost my game up a bit is actually focus on filling out all of my ability slots. I don't feel like I'm as strong as I should be, but this boss is not that terrible as long as you're on a character that you can aim decently well. That will be super useful now that we're near the end. Oh shit. That was probably... Uh-oh. I may have screwed myself. Yes, I think I did. Yes, I did. Okay, so my thoughts were I was close enough to the end that I could use it to effectively take down the actual boss, because he is only really vulnerable from the back. I wasn't close enough to the end to be able to do that yet. Oh well. Now we know a decent combo. And let's see if there's anything worth dropping real quick that we have money for. We do not. So, actually, we could probably throw a little bit of wheat in here. And that. Oh, that was bad. Let's see. I'll need to move something up there to block that. Let's grab that. And we'll put you there. I guess that means I probably need to drop a few more rocks if I can afford them. Yeah. Okay. Oh. Yeah, now I just need some gold and I can drop the snowy trophy. Anything that's available for upgrades that I can afford. Let's do that. And that. And that's all we can get right now. So, alright. Let's see. I think we're just going to stick with him because he's getting closer and closer to 8. Well, no, let's try to unlock another level. So, Repentant. We haven't used these guys yet. And I am not excited about trying them. Although this might be a bit easier to handle on PC, because on console, they're not terribly fun. Where you just have the joystick to rotate around. A little bit harder to sort of precisely aim the one spot that you want to hit. And the side ones would be a great one to get for them, because odds are pretty good if you're aiming for one side with one of them, you're going to be aiming at the other side with the other one. Okay. Come on, guys. And let's get bleed. Gotta love it when it gives you multiple things that you actually like picking up, so you can't get them all. But isn't that the way that all roguelikes go? Sure. See, sometimes they feel really strong, sometimes they feel really weak. It's the first time I'm playing them on PC, it's not the first time I'm playing them, full disclosure. It'll be a little bit before we pick up characters that I haven't played at all. Yeah. But I can't quite get a feel for the right way to really play them just yet. Like, the warrior, even though he's really, really basic, where he starts with bleed, and he doesn't really have any inherent problems. I can at least still make him last for a while in runs where he's not getting decent upgrades. Okay, yeah, that'll work. Because I'll be able to combine bleed with something. But these guys just don't feel like it's really easy to keep them going without a good supporting build, at least early on. Okay, there we go. Now, might as well. Let's see, was it? See, the cool thing about these guys is that where both of them launch one of those things out, it's not quite as much of a hindrance to have the ball explode. And I'm just now realizing that as I'm saying that. It's not something I knew beforehand, so don't think that was master level strategy. I more or less play this like it's a stream of consciousness. And AoE, not AoE, not AoE, so let's get poison. Because if nothing else, it'll combine with the laser to make a ray gun. Or wait, shit, we don't have the laser. I mean, I think it combines with the wind. Good, the farm. Start getting our resource generators up and going. And now it'll be ready for an actual fusion next time. Evolution. And I think this makes the weird plague gas cloud thing. Awesome. There we go. Ah, yes. Things are starting to come together now. And should we do wind or electricity? I don't think any of them actually combine with the Broodmother. But I like the electric one, so we'll grab it anyway. Always down to see what sort of combinations we might be able to get. And it'll give me a good excuse to pick up passives for the next couple levels up. Alright. See, that sounds good for resource generation, so whatever. Half the time I don't pick up a full suite of passive, so who cares? That sucked. What was even hitting the bull? Or is it not invulnerable to my damage? Okay. Might as well. Yeah, I'm not going to get enough to level up one more time before picking it up, so might as well do it. So, what would be a good conversation topic for a little bit? Clive Barker. Excellent author, heavily underrated for his fantasy books. Everyone knows he's a good horror author. Well, everyone above a certain age. Everyone that can remember Hellraiser being in theaters. Or just Hellraiser being popular, period. But he also has some of the best fantasy books in existence. At least in my opinion. He's probably my favorite author in general. Because he wrote my favorite book, which is Imagica. It's just different. It has some really interesting characters, including a main character that is functionally an alien with no real actual set physiology. I was trying to think of a way to phrase it without dipping into semi-controversial things. Since we've not spread Broodmother over to anything, let's do that. But Imagica, definitely worth checking out if you enjoy fantasy books. I would say Barker pretty definitively, other than one series that he has, does not really write for kids. So be prepared. Like, he is known for body horror, and that definitely works its way into the Imagica books. But that's not all there is to it. Oh, come on. Alright. Sure. He has also written another fantasy book that actually has probably the only scene in any book, horror or fantasy, that I actually find scary. That would be Weave World, which is, to sort of not really do it justice in summarizing it, it's about a dude that finds a carpet that is actually the house to a whole bunch of fantastical magical creatures that are being hunted by a virtually unstoppable creature. So there is one pursuit scene in it that actually made me nervous at the time when I read it, which isn't something that typically happens when I'm reading. Like, every now and then movies will manage to elicit emotions like that, but books very rarely make me afraid. They can make me feel other stuff, but it's really hard for me to get fear or nervousness out of a book. Sometimes I'll be concerned about the fate of a character, but it's still not quite at the level of nervousness. But Weave World successfully did it. And then as far as if you want to see an actual blend between horror and fantasy, check out his books of the art, which there's only 2 of them out. Supposedly at one point in time he had a plan for a whole series, but that hasn't manifested past the first 2 books, which are The Great and Secret Show and Everville. Highly recommend both of those as well. His horror books, you can pretty much just take your pick. Like, they're all good. And they're all just different. So he's got a ghost story when it comes to Cold Heart Canyon. He has typical demons and whatnot with Hellbound Heart. Like, if you haven't read the book that Hellraiser's based on, it's just a novella. It's not a full-length, like, several hundred-page novel. So you can easily get what the basis of all the Hellraiser series is pretty quickly. With very minimal investment, it's not a difficult read. It actually reads very quickly. I kind of enjoy it better than the movie that was made, but I understand why he tweaked the stuff for the movie a little bit the way he did, because it made the plot actions just make just a touch more sense than what they end up making. Whoop. In the book, because you have a hard time figuring out why Kirsty's doing what she does, like what her motivation is for doing any of it. But in the movie, it makes sense. She's trying to save her father, so whatever. And if you like the Hellraiser, shit. If you actually enjoy the Hellraiser movies, there is a sequel to the book called Hellbound, or The Scarlet Gospels, which some people enjoy, some people don't. That was more in the category that I didn't think it's his best work. It felt more like he did it to get people to leave him alone about Hellraiser. It's still interesting, and it actually involves one of his other more popular characters from the Candyman series, which is Harry D'Amour. Which, by the way, he also makes an appearance in Everville. And they're getting ready to do that thing again. Damn. Them being a 2-character character messes up my spacing for them. That attack's... I probably should have slowed the fight down to make that attack easier to dodge. Yeah, well. That's on me. All right. That might be useful later. It's not going to be useful right now, so we'll get this. And let's drop this. Sure. And let's see, can we afford a farm? Yes. So we'll put it here. And we drop it over here for now. That way we can get it built. Oh, come on. Yeah, the irony doesn't escape me. Ah, well. Let's just quickly jump in again, except this time we'll take him in here and see if we can get enough gears to get the next level open. I don't know how many more runs we'll do before we call it for the night, but we'll see. You wouldn't think the very minor aiming deviation that he has would be all that big of a deal, but it definitely can mess you up at times, unless you get a good build going for him. He's already got the fire, so yeah, let's just upgrade the fire. I've got to stop walking into stuff. And I like the laser. The ice is not bad either, but I need something to start working towards fusion. Help me spread those dots around. Ooh, speaking of dots, I need to boot up World of Warcraft for a little bit. Go check out the anniversary event. And let's grab this. May do that in another round or two. Get a little bit more recorded of this and then just go check out the anniversary event and wow, split that off and make it into its own video. I can make fire lasers and ice lasers. And for what I'm trying to do, that should be more useful in the long run. Because long run here, we're trying to get some large sweeping AoEs going. Yeah, it's a pretty nice one. And bleed. I definitely should have tried to clear it out and grab another AoE, but whatever. Bleed's fun as well. Really makes me want to put on my sugar. And there we go. There's one good fusion. Now we need to focus on picking up another AoE ability. And that will work. I think that one combined pretty well with ice the last time I did it, although I'm not 100% certain. We'll see. Anything that can spread bleed around really well is always something that I'll pick up. If it bleeds, we can kill it. don't know how much uptime that one actually has. Oh, come on. There we go. And of course I pick it up while I'm trying to grab all the other stuff. Shouldn't be a problem now. Alchemist. Start getting stat scaling going on. Make the stats actually somewhat meaningful. And that one's fun. Catch a special ball lets us actually produce a baby ball. What do we got? Useful for slowing stuff down, so we'll grab it. Now hopefully we can pick up Earthquake again, because I actually kind of like Earthquake. There we go. That should be good for doing bleed spread once we actually get it leveled up. In the meantime, grab fission, boost ourselves up a little bit. Those fissions have been working out pretty well. We'll cap it off. Now I need to pick up some new abilities. And spread bleed. Spread. What's the scariest book you've ever read? Because, like I was talking about a second ago, the only thing I've read that's actually scared me was a book from Clive Barker. And I just don't normally get scared by books. So consistently try to find things that people recommend as scary and test it out. And to be honest with you, a lot of the stuff I see recommended is either one, basically just torture porn in literature form, which I don't find those movies scary so much as just bothersome to watch. Like, it's not that watching people get tortured to death is actually scary, it's that it's just painful. Or they're just not what I would particularly consider scary. What is this one? Like I don't know. The scary stories to... Hold on. What is that book? The whole new scary stories to read in the dark book. I struggled to stay positive when talking about it when I was reviewing it on the channel, because I really don't want to throw out negative reviews. It's just not the style that I want to do for review material. But man, it was... If it wasn't AI constructed, it wasn't far off. I didn't find anything in it particularly scary. But there were people consistently talking about, oh, it was terrifying. Blah, 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 blah. And it was not. If that book scared you, I don't know what type of horror you're used to reading, but you 100% should not watch horror movies. That aside, the lists would consistently also recommend um, House of Leaves, which, if you've listened to my review on it, I don't think it qualifies as horror mostly. Like, there is a horror aspect to it, but throughout the story, the way it's presented, you don't even know if the quote-unquote scary part of the book is even meant to be real, even within the fictional universe. Like, that sounds confusing, but it's a top tier book. Don't get me wrong on that at all. House of Leaves is absolutely, if you enjoy reading, it is a literary experience. It's not just a book. It's an experience in and of itself, and it is one that's worth having if you actually enjoy the process of reading. Because the guy that wrote it did some really clever things that make it interesting. He's telling basically 2 or 3, depending on perspective, stories at the same time. Like, not sequentially, like, as in they're actually happening simultaneously in the book itself. Kind of hard to explain what I mean by that, but the experience side of it is worth doing. It takes a while to get through too, unless you just really sit down and dig into it. But I would actually recommend taking your time. I would not recommend reading it as quickly as you humanly can, because it kind of takes away from it. And it was interesting enough that I am digging into some of Daniel Lusky's other books, and I have no idea if I'm saying his name correctly. It's probably one of the hardest to say last names I think I've seen written down. But it's good. It's definitely good. Highly recommend. Not scary though. Interesting, but not scary. And then it's usually just Stephen King. Like, it's those books and Stephen King. Oh, and House on Haunted Hill, but, you know, I'm just not terribly interested in it. Might have to give it a shot, though, just to see. I don't know. Book recommendations that I see online for horror just don't normally mesh well with what I actually think of when I think of horror. Or at least I have yet to see someone make recommendations for it that I have found to be things that mesh well with what I need. Oh, I should have been picking up rocks whenever I've got to that point. I didn't think about that. Oh well. Let's try hanging out on the side. That way when those things start firing off at me, I can sort of work my way over to the right rather than just slowly listing to a random direction. What was that? And here it goes. Yeah, that works. That works. See, now that they're not advancing, those guys are just annoying. They're not necessarily difficult, though. And here we go. And he should die soon. There we go. Single family house. Wonder what character that is. And a lumberyard. And we got the gears. Alright. Now let's build what we can, prioritizing characters first. Okay, so yeah, that's right. It forced you to do this every time. Well, I don't know if it explicitly forced you to upgrade it immediately, but no, let's do this. And actually housing. Well, veterans hut we can do. Single family home we can't quite yet. Funny sound, sorry. Okay, and let's rearrange. Move this here, this here, this here. And there, that might work. Probably not, but fuck it. Let's see what we can do. Well, we got a couple complete: the farm, the clinic. Those upgrades worked out. I guess we should. Farm is finished. We'll drop it over here. Put this here. Can we build? A lumberyard, yes. But it's not going to be working yet. So I guess we need to actually drop it over here for the time being. How many more do we need? A couple. And there we go. Oh, and let's see. Nope. Probably. Yeah. Okay. So let's test out the new area with our favorite testing stick. Then we may hop into WoW for a minute, check out the anniversary event, and at least get the achievement for logging in during the anniversary. And then I can cancel my subscription. Oh, that's a weird looking creature. Actually, let's do that. Slow down just a little bit for this one. Give me some time to absorb what's going on. The snack that smiles back bug statues. Well, that definitely makes positioning more interesting. Here's to hoping we win the lottery. Just in general, like in real life, not in the game. Yeah, I mean, I just need another special ball at this point, so why not? Well, this is definitely interesting. I'm getting a little bit more complicated. Grab that, make it easier to fetch balls. Which accelerates our fire rate. Our guy's doing pretty good. Ah, there we go. We can get some raid going on. For some reason, this reminds me of King Domino. I wonder what that does if I just stand in it. I'm sure nothing good. but it makes me curious. I don't even know if there's any combinations I can get in there. Hold on, let's see. Yeah, it just slows me down. Okay, good to know. Didn't mean to grab that. It seems to be the refrain of the night. I am interested regarding WoW. I'm interested in how Midnight's going to turn out, because even after all this time, wow, I don't have any area of effect. Oh well. Even after all this time, I still like kind of keeping track of what's going on in it. If I had the time, I'd play it, but I would 1,000 times rather spend the time with my family. And the fun thing about stuff like this is if I need to, I can just pause it, get up and walk away, and nothing's going to happen to me. That's not really the case with WoW. What is that one? Whoops. Military Academy. Strength to D. Okay. So, next stat scaler. Let's try to pick... Come on, let me... Alright, cool. Evolution, and yes, that'll work. Let's get us a drink while we're on this screen. You know, I've talked about this before in other random videos, but I see people consistently talk about how good it is that the federal DOE is basically going away, and I hate to tell them, but the federal DOE doesn't really do all that much. It's been scapegoated, but it really does not do much other than just make it easier to do things like manage the federal-backed financial aid systems. Let's just explain a little bit about how the federal government is involved in education. So, there is no federally guaranteed right to education. So there is nothing that actually gives the federal government any sort of direct control over educational facilities. It's a bit of a misunderstanding in general. Like, people tend to think that federal rules always supersede state rules, which in general they do. But in this instance, the way that this actually works out is Congress will pass a piece of legislation that generally has some sort of funding tied to it. So, say Title IX. Title IX is a thing about gender equality, meant to protect female sports and other female activities and ensure that they have the same level of seriousness given to them that male ones do. Fair enough. We're not going to dive into the detail, like any of the debates over how that's been used or implemented and blah, 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 like that. It's just sort of the intent there. The way they actually get states to obey those rules is by tying money to them. And this just happens in general. Like, there is no lump sum of money that's given to the federal DOE and just told to them to disperse it how they will. There's always strings and stipulations regarding how it's given out. So what the DOE actually does is go through and figure out, well, let's see how this works out. Is it going to make it to where that just disappears on hit? I hope that didn't just screw up my combo on that. Anyway, there's no lump sum of money given to them that just spreads on its own, or shit, I'm mixing up game terminology with talking about this stuff. There's no lump sum of money given to them told to disperse how they want to disperse it. That just doesn't happen. What happens is states agree to comply with whatever rule is associated with that legislation, and in exchange, they get some money for it. Now, if you agree with the legislation, then you probably are fine with the way the money is dispersed. Where a lot of people really end up having issues is something that was actually taken care of when they killed off Chevron deference. They realistically didn't have a problem with the DOE existing. They had a problem with the DOE choosing how it interpreted the rules. And the Supreme Court actually killed off Chevron deference before they... I'm pretty sure they did that before they knocked out Roe v. Wade. I could be wrong on that one. I could be misremembering. But with that gone, more or less the DOE doesn't really get to choose how it interprets its rules, which means they sort of have to strictly go based off of what the legislation says. Now, if you actually want to change how the school systems in your state function, doing stuff at the federal level is not really going to do anything at all. What you need to do is actually change how your state rules work. So your state DOE and your state Board of Education. Because ultimately, education and the implementation of education is a state responsibility. The federal government just has to try to control it through incentives. So through things like we were talking about, funding packages and whatnot. So, say No Child Left Behind, basically what they did there was they said, hey, we're going to tie all federal funding to you having some form of testing. That sounds pretty cool. If you do not have some form of testing at the end of your coursework, then you don't necessarily get any funding. And we will set sort of target goals, and as long as you're actually working on getting those goals, then you can do it. The DOE's main job is really just to check for compliance, be sure that states are actually complying with the legislation that the funding's tied to. So they're more or less making sure states aren't just doing whatever they want to and pretending that they are complying with those rules to get that money. Other than that, they do some stuff with dispersal of financial aid, so there's a whole lot more to it other than just student loans. And they would just check to make sure people would actually qualify for the financial assistance they're applying for. They haven't really been the ones heavily pushing a lot of the legislation that people have been getting up in arms about. The individual states have been doing that. And those individual states can still choose to implement those policies, which is the reason why you've seen things like Trump administration threatening to withhold funding if places keep implementing certain types of policies. And then you've seen the court say, sorry, you can't do that because that's not part of the legislation. That gets kind of complicated, but the DOE has never been the ones that actually set that stuff. They have recommendations and they have interpretations, but the interpretations change based on administration. So realistically, if you actually want to, let's say, implement more conservative policies, what you would actually want is a more active DOE instead of a less active DOE, and have them interpreting the rules in a way that favors more conservative values. If you want it liberal, you have one that reflects more liberal values, just like any other department of the government. Thing is, at the end of the day, all they can really check for is compliance, and if a state feels like they have been inappropriately denied access to funds while they comply with that particular piece of legislation, they can always take the DOE to Supreme Court and sue to get the funding released. And generally, as long as on paper they can show they've been complying with no Chevron deference going on, then the court would probably side with them and restore the funding source. So The DOE is just a giant red herring. You can't get rid of the stuff that the DOE does because you have to check for compliance for the funding sources. So, that stuff will just be moved to other departments. But here's a question. What does moving all that stuff to other departments actually achieve? Nothing. It's just a big theatrical show. Just to throw one point of clarity out there, special education is actually one of the things where there's people that have concerns with it. But yet again, that money's tied to legislation. It's not tied to the Department of Education in general. So in theory, at least, it should be moved elsewhere in terms of the oversight. It still exists. So let's talk about this boss. Did not expect to get to this guy on the first run. He actually looks really cool. And the whole stacked snake thing makes me think that the boss designs are getting ready to get a whole lot more complicated. If you can't tell, this is me adding some notes in as a future self, because stream version of me just didn't really say anything worthwhile right here, so I've clipped it out to throw these comments in. I'm finding this level to actually be relatively easy to get to the end of, so it'll probably be a good way to finish farming the warrior up to level 10 and then let it go. But we'll see. Either way, this will probably make its way into shorts, because first time I've got to this guy, and I generally turn the first time I encounter a boss into a short. So cool. I like him. I like the snake look. This is actually probably my favorite boss so far. He's not particularly challenging, but I like the creativity behind it. Of course, now that I think about it, he's not challenging right now, but I'm also fighting him on the middle speed setting for the regular level, and not throwing any of the more complex things in. This actually probably would be pretty hard on the next setup. I keep forgetting that the other difficulty exists. I've just been focusing so much on actually unlocking stuff that I haven't actually remembered that I can bump up the difficulty. I'll have to go back. Maybe the next stream should be focused on trying to get some clears on the next speed setting up and see how that does. But I don't know. There's tons of blueprints to unlock. Got tons of levels at this point. All I gotta do is get a couple wins with each new level to unlock the next one, and I don't think there's a huge number of floors left to unlock before we get to the final couple floors. But I'm sure I'm gonna need to actually get some improvements in on my characters overall, which more runs like this will result in getting those improvements very, very quickly. Starting to realize too that I probably need to rearrange my town each time I come back and have new buildings at this point to favor actually unlocking those buildings as quickly as possible. Either way, let's go in and do some routine maintenance at this point. Also, as a side note, I'm going to avoid all political discussions in future streams or future videos in general. I don't really feel like having arguments with people in the comment section. This is just one of those things that has been sort of irritating me in the back of my head, and I thought I'd take the opportunity to chat about it, but this will be the last time. And just as a side note, for those of you that are really only watching for the runs, that's the last run in this video. I'm going to let the maintenance portion play out just for anyone that actually likes to see that part of it. But be aware, the rest of this is just me kind of muttering to myself while I do a little bit of upkeep, because at the end of the stream, I switched over to playing the anniversary edition of WoW for a little bit. That stream VOD's up. That's not going to get cut into anything because it's boring. It was a repeat of last year's anniversary festival, pretty much beat for beat, and that one, it was entertaining once, but I don't feel like doing it again. So I just ended up doing one dungeon run and called it a night for WoW. I think that'll be calling it a lifetime for WoW until midnight comes out. I don't know. I may talk myself into just really heavily grinding out Remix one day and finishing off my character on it to grab a couple more mounts. But I don't know. WoW just hasn't been scratching an itch here lately, so it's hard to motivate myself to play it. I just keep accidentally paying my subscription fee. So I need to remember to go in and cancel that. That way I can re-up when Midnight comes out and do some stuff then. But until then, I'm not going to touch it anymore. Anyway, have a good night. And remember, if I can beat it, so can you. Lumberyard is working now, so... Okay, can we build any of the housing? No. What about these things? Okay, so speed, strength, endurance. Sure. Yeah, there we go. I feel like that'll keep us from being able to send things out that way. We'll just drop it over there for now. We've got a lumberyard. We need to build some gold mines. That, I believe, will be the type of thing that we do, where it's a row of them and try to get an infinite bounce type of thing going. Really need to prioritize getting my units unlocked, because then there'll be more people that can be bounced off of stuff. Oh, manage. Who should we assign? Stonemaker, long sickle, stone master. So I'll just grab him. And I'm pretty sure I can assign someone here, so